Hey, folks, just a friendly reminder that all shows on the Madness Comic Network are produced by their individual hosts and in no way reflect the opinions of the network as a whole. The statements in the following broadcast are not necessarily the opinions of the Madness Comic Network, its staff, sponsors, or contributors. This show is rated TVMA, as are all of them and all those other letters. Viewer discretion is highly advised, and, just do what Doc says. Read that again. Peace, everybody.
Flip City Magazine is just really pulling out all the stops, man. Your guys' production value of this magazine has gone insane. I mean, look at that. I mean, I remember when you guys, it was black and white. Even when it was black and white, I thought your quality was great. But damn, they just really stepping it up a notch. Look at this. James Corbett, boys. James Corbett.
Genuinely cutting. But also funny, and obviously just chaotic and very fun.
I love Flip City. It has brought new types of badassery and integrity to the print medium.
The Madness Comic Network and comic-related madness proudly presents Madness Tuesday Morning Brew. Tune in to our content on Comic Talk with Pops Van Zandt on YouTube.
It's Tuesday, and I gotta tell you that I'm already tired. Today was my kiddo's first day of school, so that meant getting up early. First time getting up early in a while, and everybody got out the door, and everybody did fine. It's just that, at this point, it's like I'm on my second cup of coffee because I'm not used to it, but it's good. It's all good. My friends, I had a really fun weekend. I made t-shirts this weekend. I was so excited. All the surveys were in. I had ordered all the supplies. Things come in about a week, so that was pretty quick. And I made 30 t-shirts and 4 sweatshirts. And it was a ton of fun. I really enjoyed it. So the You Have Died-ish of Dysentery and Big James shirts turned out great, as you can see. I had some extra room on the gang sheet, and I made this lovely hat for myself, which says, I drink the tears of my readers, of course. And then, of course, I got the POTPR skull. So fun times this weekend. I'm still in the making phase of the merch. So I'm still making the merch. I'm working on the riddle. I'm working on the back cover. The book is in production. We're right in the middle of, we're in the trenches of production on issue 5. So I wish I could show you art. I can't show you art. It's full of spoilers. There's this one page, however, that's it's like smack dab in the middle. And the reason why I'm wearing this hat is because it's really tough. And as I was working on the page, I was doing the lettering. My kids happened to look over and saw what was going on and immediately got mad, demanded I change the art, and then cried when I didn't. So we're traumatizing a few people in this one. So I'll be paying for therapy later, I'm sure. But in the meantime, someone's like, oh no. But it's all in good fun. It's all in good fun. You can come for me later. So that's what's going on with Path. We have some really exciting news. We're doing a launch party tonight. Let's see. It's John Dexter's Dime Store Detective number 4. Check it out, you guys. Dime Store Detective issue number 4 with 1 through 3 catch-up tiers. So this is going live tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can tune in here on the network, and we're going to be launching this. So usually what we do is we walk you through the Kickstarter. You get to see all the things and kind of go shopping, and then we'll watch John push the button and watch the dollars climb, which is a lot of fun. So this is tonight, people. Put it on your calendars or push the follow button or interested on the Facebook, whatever you need to do to remind you. I can drop the link here in the chat. That will help. Let me do that. Copy. Hey, John Westhoff. I said, we all have that stuff that traumatizes us as youth anyway. Yeah, that's a lot. Like the reason why a lot of us are the way we are. And I think that is especially true for horror creators and writers and artists. I think that things that we watched as children kind of made us the way we are. Speaking of horror, hey, William Russell. I was just saying, like, I traumatized my kids with my own comic book. One thing I won't do is show them Psycho Sal. Like, they're not allowed to see that one. That's probably more traumatizing than ever. But here's the link real quick for Dime Store Detective. This is the pre-launch link. Go ahead and click that for notification upon launch. Tune in tonight at 7 p.m. And then, what's this? We can exchange, John Westhoff. I'll make t-shirts for you, and you can supply therapy for my children. How about that? Oh, my girls do not need Psycho Cell. Not yet. They're 7 and 10. Someday maybe when they're old enough to understand, but in the meantime, that's probably a pass for that, William. Otherwise, I'm going to go back to poor John Westhoff and ask him for more therapy. Anyway, let's bring in my guest. You know what? It's super hot here in Texas because it's August. Welcome to the Devil's Anus. But it's still not as hot as this guest I have on today. Joe Soliz is a great creator and does all ages comics. He has Child's Play comics. He has a Kickstarter that's in pre-launch. Who is a Disney princess? Oh, Prince. Who? Let's hey, John. asleep. He's got some cucumbers for his
What? Oh, was it time for the show? Crap. Sorry.
Were you getting some beauty rest? Dude, I need some cucumbers for my
I'm gonna
eyes
be
too.
46 in 2 months. You think this beauty comes naturally?
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning. Really good
How
morning.
are
this
you?
time.
Besides tired, like
Yeah, man, you'll have a long intro. It's hard to hold that for so long.
it's like I was like, I thought you really were asleep. I was like, what's he doing right now? But that explains a lot. Psycho Sal is not a Disney prince, by the way. I would be that would be hilarious if someday when the license, like, you know what I mean, like Mickey's now public domain, like some of the other Disney stuff becomes public domain, and Psycho Sal just kind of like walks through all the Disney properties as the prince. That might be funny, William. We'll talk about that someday. Anyways, Joe, how are you, man? Are you boiling like I am here in Texas?
Yes, yeah. I was gonna say, what are we, about 5 hours? Well, I'm 5 hours south of you, I think. So it's even hotter here than where you are. And I also took a child to school this morning. My son's 3 though, so but I'm used to, yes, John, yo Joe, that's right. He sees my shirt.
Joe. Yes.
But yeah, my days start at 5 Monday through Friday, so
That's way too early, man.
Well, they have to, otherwise I would get nothing done. So especially doing this on the side, because
I feel you. You know, time. I think is like the hottest commodity when it comes to indie creators. It's like, because we're all trying to do our job or our main life, and then this is on the side, and then promotion and marketing and creation and managing team, wearing all the hats. And I feel like you wear more hats than most creators because you have multiple stories, and then you also have Child's Play Comics. You have the website, you have that going on. So I feel like there's a few more things on your plate too. So
a little bit.
Why don't you? Well, we're going to do the thing we always do on the Tuesday Brew, which was we want to know your origin story. So go back to the beginning. Tell us how you got into comics, what influences you had, and like ultimately what made you decide that you're going to do this.
Probably like most indie creators, a little touch of insanity, but
I think we're all there.
No, but me and my wife took it one step further. We used to actually own a comic and game shop here in town, so that takes some true insanity, because that was fun, but it was hard work. So me and my wife moved down here to New Braunfels about 10 years ago, and at the time there was no shops of any kind other than north in San Marcos and Austin, or south in San Antonio. So we she's in education. She was a teacher for 10 years, and now she does more like behind the scenes stuff. And at the time I was a banker, so I was working at Wells Fargo. So dude,
I was a banker too.
Oh, really?
Chase Bank and Citibank. Oh,
nice. So
I get you.
So that's why I'm able to figure out budgets and, maintain a store and and Kickstarters and all that stuff. But we got here and we were like, she had actually helped a friend run a store up in Koepp. It was called Roll to Play, and it was just a board game store. So my wife kind of had a little experience helping her with that. And so when I got down here and there was, there wasn't really too much, we were like, well, do you want to try it? And so we kind of took the long way around, and we actually took about $1,500 of our wedding money that we didn't use and bought our first batch of inventory. And at the time we were just like, okay, we're just going to do conventions and just local events. We actually have a local pizza place in town that like rents out their back room for free as long as people promise to buy food. So we used to do game nights there once a month, and that's kind of how we built an audience. And we did that for about 2 years, and then finally we had enough to actually get a brick and mortar store. So we we ran that for another 2 years, but we were still doing our day jobs. And
my
so we
gosh.
would literally get out of our day jobs, go straight to the store, because we were still just trying to do it ourselves. You know, we still were being conscious of, well, we don't want to spend money we don't have yet on employees, you know.
Yeah.
And so we would run over to the store, run it from about 6 to 10 at night, get up, do it again.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so, and we
That-
didn't have our child yet at the time, so that's why we had all that
How
energy.
long did you
So,
do that for, and how quickly did that start to get old? Just because
we actually did it for 2 years. We did it
Yeah.
from 2016 to 2018, and we would have kept doing it, but it was my body that gave out on me, put me in the hospital
Damn it.
Christmas Eve of that year, and was like, you need to slow down or something more serious is going to happen. Because I thought I was having a heart attack, but thankfully it wasn't that. It was just, they told me it was anxiety induced panic attack, which I've never had one of those in my life, but it had all the same symptoms: tightness of chest,
Mhm.
shortness of breath and all that. And I was just like, so my wife was like, yeah, we need to sell the shop. And it was kind of bittersweet because it was successful. So we were like, we don't have to close it, we can actually
Yeah.
sell it.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. We actually ended up selling it to a local person in town, and they kept it going for a little while, but it shut down, I think, right before the pandemic. I don't think it was the pandemic.
It was
that shut
actually
them
good
down.
timing.
Yeah.
It's like,
Oh yeah. I
oh
did
my
the math,
God.
and we would have been in the middle of our next round of lease when the
Yeah.
pandemic hit. So yeah, it was definitely a blessing in disguise in the end. You know, and I listened to her and to my doctor. You know, I literally took a year off, and in 2019, I started researching how to do a YouTube show, because I'm like, well, that can't be as stressful. I mean, it has its own stressors, but definitely not like the store. So we did that through all of 2019, and that was a lot of fun. I never monetized on YouTube, but I would go to local businesses and do baked in ads for them and sell
Mhm.
the ads. So we made a little bit of money, and we kept our child's. So my wife's last name is she's Sarah Childs. So that's where Child's Play comes
Oh.
from. And so we kept the name even when we sold the business. We didn't sell the name. So it's always been, it was called Child's Play Games and Geekery was the name of the
Cool.
store. And so it's still the name of the LLC. Child's Play Comics is just an extension of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, during the pandemic, well, actually, when we backtrack, in 2019, we had Hill Country Comic Con here for the first time, and we actually filmed it for the YouTube show. And that's where I met indie creator Chuck Pino,
Mhm.
and because he just lived up the road here in Canyon
Yep.
Lake. And so he kind of, you know, we have our little mascot for the store, Malia Mayhem, which is basically my wife as a child. Like, it's just her, because she loves cosplay, she loves tabletop games, and so the mascot's based on her. And I had a friend of mine who was an artist just do a 1-page origin story for her, and it was up on the store for the longest time, and people were always like, are you going to ever make a comic of that? And I'm like, well, that's the goal. Like, that's why, you know, what we're looking at. But it just never, even owning a shop like that, opportunity never arose. You know, it was just weird how that happened like that, because it wasn't until I talked to Chuck after the fact that he kind of was telling me how he got into it and introduced me to Comics Wellspring. And then
Yes.
one of my friends from college, we had always worked on an idea for a comic, but we never got around to doing it. So when we were all stuck at home in 2021, he was
Yep.
like, do you want to do it? And he was like, according to Comics Wellspring, the smallest comic they'll print is an 8-pager. He's like, let's just do that. Let's just start small.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. It was actually this
Oh, you
one.
have it?
Yeah,
Look.
the whole library here. So
I know mine's like right there too.
it's called How to Hunt a Hero. And
Cool. Yeah.
we can talk about the origins of the actual story later, but basically we just sold to family and friends. We Square, when we used it for the store, they give you a free website, so we just put it up on their website and did the sales through there, and sold about 150 copies. And we were like happy. We were like, okay, we did it, yay, you know. Like, that was
Yay.
we did a comic. And then we were like, okay, are we going to do anything else? And then, you know, my wife was like, you know, well, do we want to do something with Malia now? And so we started seeking out an artist. And so that unfortunately took a lot longer than we thought, and the original artist couldn't finish it. But that also kind of turned into a blessing in disguise, because we actually found our current artist. Her name is Carla Diaz, and she's actually from Chile, and she gave the character a very like more anime style to her, which is what we wanted from the beginning. But I just was super lucky to find Carla. She had actually, I just searched DeviantArt one day for like anime style artists, and she had actually done some work for Dark Horse Comics.
Oh, nice.
And so I was like, okay, well, that, even though she's from another country, because I never hired anybody from another country, I'm like, okay, well, that to me gives legitimacy. She worked for Dark Horse, you know.
Yeah.
So, and she's been super helpful, super amazing. She was able to knock that issue out. That's the issue 0 we released last year. And so yeah, after that, we went and did our first Kickstarter, which that was the one I think I sent you the digital copy of, because so this one is the one we kickstarted this past October. It's called Child's Play Comic 0, because it's essentially a collection of all the things I just talked about. So we were like, okay, we have all these little comics, you know, let's put it together and kind of go to Kickstarter and introduce ourselves, I guess you could say. And so there's like 2 stories for Malia in here, 2 stories for How to Hunt a Hero. And then I actually got one of my other best friends from college. I guess the comic bug bit him after we saw we could do it. So it says here on the corner, you know, introducing Teen Strike. And that's a comic that him and his friends have also worked on since high school. And so that one was achieved this past May. I helped him run this Kickstarter.
Nice.
So yeah, it's just been, I mean, there's been some delays of some other projects, as I kind of told you in the email, but you know, when you look at it, you know, when you look at it overall, it's like,
right.
You know, I think we still did pretty good. So
yeah, that's incredible. And I'm going to show people your webpage and all the stuff they can get, which is amazing. But here's what I take from your journey. I feel like you did things the right way. A lot of us feel like we have to jump in with both feet and produce this 40-page amazing art, you know, comic book, and make a Kickstarter with $10,000. You know what I mean? Right from the jump. And that's not how it goes. I think you guys doing an 8-pager and being like, look what we can do, and then fulfilling it, and so everybody knows that you're serious, you know what I mean? And then continuing to make comics, putting them together into an anthology, running that as a Kickstarter. I think that that was really smart. And I think that people can learn from that, because you don't have to go in with a graphic novel, 240 pages, and have to Kickstarter $24,000 in order to break into this industry. You really don't. Good morning, Lou. Good morning, Steven. I didn't get a chance to say it. And also, I wanted to shout out to Keith, because this was not the original design for the t-shirt. We added something. I don't know if I make myself big. So you can kind of see it, but it used to say you have died of dysentery in Big James, and Keith was cool and added the ish. So it says you have died ish. And then Keith had the great idea. He's like, this used to be just a rectangle. And he was like, we should break that up. And so I did. So thank you to Keith for sharing the ideas with me to how to take this shirt up to the next level. So shout out. So when you are writing your comics, I'm all about the ish, he says. So let me throw this up here. So I want to show people, this is Child's Play Comic Squared site. So you guys, you can come here with me and we can look around. And thank you. I appreciate you, Keith. I appreciate anybody. And I'm one of those people that listens to critique. If someone's like, hey, this is great, but this might make it better, I'm like, tell me what you were thinking. You know what I mean? And if it's something that I think can make it better and I agree with you, then we'll do it. I have no ego. You know what I mean? When it comes to that. Sometimes people, they'll come at you and they're like, you should do this. And you're like, that doesn't make any sense. So you got to take everything with a grain of salt. But I am blessed to have good friends with good taste, and they usually help me elevate my product. So let's talk about Child's Play Comics. This website, look at all this stuff, man.
Yeah, there's actually some stuff on there from some other creators. And the reason it's all listed out of stock is because I just took it all to a convention recently, and I haven't had a chance to update the website of what didn't sell. So it's funny because that's kind of a reflection of what we used to do at the store. My friends used to make fun of us because we would, I didn't have the wherewithal to like have 2 sets of stocks, right? To have one for the
Mhm.
store and one for conventions. But conventions were such good income because, you know, it was just a new audience and there was so many people that found us because of, you know, meeting us at a convention and then coming to the physical store. Well, you know, most conventions are either the weekend or maybe Friday included.
Yeah.
So we would literally, with the exception of the comics, it was usually the tabletop aspect we would clear out the store, and then my friends usually would help me watch the store, and they would say inevitably somebody would come looking for dice or something. And I even had a sign that said, you know, to try to be funny about it, it showed Malia, and she's like, "Where are all the games?" You know, and it says, you know, "We apologize. We're at a convention this weekend." You know, because I was like, I know it's annoying. I would probably be annoyed if I went to a shop and they did that too. But I was like, we're small. Like we have
Yeah.
to accept, you know, we have to accept that we're small and this is what we have to do to survive. You know, at some point, if we had kept going, of course, we would have not done that anymore. But I figured
Right.
we probably would have needed maybe another year or two without the world ending, of course, in order to
Mhm.
achieve that, and for
Mhm.
my body to keep up with me. So,
Right, right,
but
right. And I mean, like, all of that stuff is par for the course. I feel like a lot of us have that journey where it's like we had the best intentions and then stuff blows up in your face, you know what I mean? But it's not that you quit. It's you can sometimes take a break, but then you just come back and you pivot. You pivot and you do something different. And that's to me shows passion and commitment to being a part of this community. So yeah, we were talking about kid friendly. We were talking, I mean, like even this character right here. What is her name? The one that's How to Hunt a Hero.
Oh, Ava. Yeah, we had to we
Amazing.
originally were gonna only do all ages, but then when my friends were like, "Well, our stuff is more teen," I was like, "Okay, we'll just do both and we'll market as such." You
Yeah,
know.
and I got to read what you were sending me. So I mean, like she's hot and she's in this tight outfit, but I mean, like that's it. She's
Mhm.
out there kicking butt and taking names. It's nothing provocative.
Yeah.
Um,
And that was
so
more the artist. That's Eddie Nunez from DC. He was a great find. My friend Roy, who's the co-creator of that series, uh, was the one who took the initiative, reached out to Eddie. He actually is here in Austin because he works for
oh really?
Powerhouse Animation, and we got to meet him at Greater Austin Comic Con last year. And super fun guy, like so friendly, and he's huge. Like he's so tall. Like I have a picture of him on my Facebook where he's like, "Here, let's all take a picture," and we're just like, "Okay, sir." You know, it's like,
The
but no,
giant.
but he is so nice, and I mean that's just his style. That's the way. If you go look at his art,
Yeah.
every woman he draws is like that. So
Jeez.
we were just like, you know, and I was able to sell that based on his name too, because they were like, "Oh yeah, Eddie Nunez from DC." You know, he did some of the Flashpoint covers and stuff like
Cool.
that. So, um, but yeah, uh, you know, it took, well, because like I said, we started in 2021, and it just really, I feel like when we did the Kickstarter last year was more like when we showed, hey, like we are legitimately here. Because for some reason,
Mhm.
I learned that, or at least it felt this way. Maybe I shouldn't say I learned, but my perception was because the website existed way before the Kickstarter. And
Mhm.
like, I feel like I got more people who knew us already from the store or just, you know, friend to friend type thing who would buy from the website. But it feels like when we finally did that Kickstarter, it's like we received a new level of legitimacy because I saw people that all of a sudden back the Kickstarter that I'm like, I know I showed you the website. You know,
Ah,
like,
that's funny.
you know, so but again, that's just my perception. It could be totally wrong, but that's what it felt like. But that's fine. I get it if there's a certain group of people that they want to see you actually do one, because yeah, it's a lot of work, as you well know, you know, and a lot of people
Yes.
out there in the comments I know have done Kickstarters too, and it
Mhm.
is a lot of work. so
It's a
so I
ton of
can see
work.
how some people are kind of like, well, that's your trial by fire. If you achieve it, you know, then we'll recognize you basically. So
Well, I see it a different way because a
mhm,
website's going to exist no matter what, but the Kickstarter to me, that to me is more important. That's where I make a majority of my funds to pay my artists, pay for
mhm,
printing, to pay for shipping. So if I had a choice whether they bought from the website or back the Kickstarter, I would prefer them to back the Kickstarter. So in my
mhm.
mind, those people are like, "Oh, the website's cool, but now we have to stand up for our friend. Now
Yeah.
we have to make sure that they succeed." Just because Kickstarter is all or nothing. If you
Mhm.
don't hit that goal, all that money disappears. So
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
mhm. But I think people just have different comfort levels. I always have those people that are there at the Kickstarter and they understand the urgency behind it. And I have other people that are like, I really love your story. I'll get it as soon as it's printed. And I'm like, get it from the Kickstarter. No. And they're like, nope, but they will buy
Yeah.
it religiously from me in person. And I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah.
As long as you're meeting your goal and you're producing your product, they're going to come along too. It just depends on everybody's level, of what I want to say, what they're comfortable with. There's
Yeah.
website buyers, there's Comic-Con buyers, there's Kickstarter buyers, and that's why you have to do all of them, because you're
Mhm.
going to tap into a different market every time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's some people we had that were willing to have us walk through, how do you set up a Kickstarter account? How
yeah,
do you back it? And other people like, oh, I don't really want to mess with that. Just tell me when it's on your
exactly.
website,
Exactly.
Yeah, so,
That's it.
and it's so funny because I mean, I've technically, if you look at the history of my account, I've technically been on Kickstarter since 2012.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was only because a friend of mine was releasing a CD and she was like, yeah, there's this website, you do it, you fund it. And I was like, okay, and I just did it because she had something on there.
Mhm.
And then it slowly was like, oh, okay, I see there's comics on here, there's video games, like there's all kinds of stuff. But I never kept going back to Kickstarter like, ooh, what's new? Certainly not with comics. And then as we got to the store, our relationship with Kickstarter became such that, well, since we were more of a board game store, even though we did have comics, we started seeking out like creators in the area who made board games and would want to come to our store and show them off and then promote their Kickstarter and have people back it. And so you'll see, it's funny, you can look at the history of our backing and there's a chunk where it's mostly board games.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden you can tell the switch when it goes from that to Child's Play comics, and it's mostly comics, although you will see the
Mhm.
occasional board game on there, because there's still some really great stuff out there. And but yeah, it's just funny how my relationship with that website, how it's been over the years, and now it credits me as being on there for 12 years. So,
Yeah. Yeah. My husband was on there long before I was. And his same thing, like board games, board games, board games. And it was when I started doing comics that he also started getting comics. But he's more into like mainstream. I'm more into indie. So I'm supporting indie. I'm supporting my colleagues. I'm finding cool stuff from talking to people on the show. He did like Berserker and like he was like, oh, there's a new compilation. I think he did. I don't know if he did the G.I. Joe. He does a lot of Marvel,
mhm.
whatever. But it's my job to be like, hey, I think you would really like this indie. And I put it in his face, like, check
Yeah.
this one out. You know what I mean? That's my job because he's not
Mhm.
in the community like we are. But isn't that funny how you can kind of look at our backing history? And every now and again, you'll see me back like a kid's board game.
Mhm.
'Cause
Yeah,
my
same
kids,
here.
we have all these board games, and my kids are like, can we play that? And we're like, no.
Yeah.
No, you can't play this, baby. They won't
Mhm.
get it. They won't get it. So I'm always looking for a kids board game so we can play together. But
Yeah,
even some of the
you should
even
ask
some of
my
those.
wife. She was always really good at that, at matching people with board games
Yeah.
in the store, and especially her being a teacher for so long now.
Yeah.
We have our son, and I mean, she really lucked out with that boy because he's only 3 and he can play some board games, like legit ones. And
Like which
I was
ones?
like, I mean, she's gotten, she tries to vary it. Like some of them are more active. I'm looking at some of them right now. There's one called Ice Cool that he really likes, where you set up the penguins in the board and you section off the rooms, and you basically flicking the penguin to knock the other penguins out. So it's a very active board game. And he's got one up there that he likes called Forbidden Bridge, which reminds me, it's kind of like a dime store, Fireball Island, because
Yes.
it's
I had that game.
it's literally just a bridge, and like you're basically just trying to get jewels across, but every now and then you roll for the bridge to shake, and he loves, like, you press the head of the idol down and the
Yeah.
whole bridge shakes. So he'll do stuff like that. I mean, she's even gotten him playing the game of life on a very basic level. Like
Well,
he
there's
yeah.
there's kid versions of like all those Milton
Mhm.
Bradley. My kids have Kids Monopoly and Kids
Mhm.
Life, and I forget what else, but they do have, I mean, they're kids, so it's like, where'd all the board pieces go for
Yeah.
Monopoly? Like, I guess we're using, like real thimbles and paperclip. You're a paperclip this time, dude.
Yeah, he's
You know?
lucky to have me as a dad because I'm like, no, I want the cool stuff too, not just because of him, but because I want it. Because like,
Yeah.
there's this Mickey board game that's the Mickey and the Beanstalk, and you literally set up the Beanstalk to where it's like a 3D board.
Cool.
And I was like, there's the one with the cardboard cutouts, and then there's the one with the little PVC figures. Guess which one I got?
PVC all the
Yeah,
way.
yeah, and he
Yeah,
liked
yeah.
those, and I'm like, yeah, yeah. Thankfully your dad was like, I'll just spend the extra money to get you those. So
It's funny that we're talking about both board games and comics. I see that in your work.
mhm.
Do you mind if I share some of the pages from the
Sure.
PDF?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
that's fine.
Because I wanted to show people some of the art from the inside. So this is Child's Play Comic Zero. So this is the compilation. I'm not going to show all of it, people.
Oh, it's okay.
But here's kind of a table of contents. So you can see that there's multiple stories in here. And I love this, where it's like the title of the story is on a box and it's D&D. You know what I mean? So it's like they're rolling dice and they're playing games. And then here's this character, Malia, and she has a D20 on her shirt. She's at a Comic-Con. I was like, oh my God. And not only that, she has cat ears. So it's like, okay, so we're touching DC, we're touching that fourth wall because she's a almost like cat woman, like a thief, taking things she's not supposed to, but then it unlocks this power for her. And I love the fact that the bad guy is named Troll and all he does is want to eat candy. And that's like, that's 100% kids can relate to that. And so,
yeah, Malia is actually my wife's middle name, so that's where her name comes from.
really,
And we wanted something that had alliteration, so we went through several names and we just came up with Mayhem because we're like, because the whole in-universe stories that she comes up with that persona, because I've seen that at Comic-Cons over the years. Like, you'll have kids that are like, this is my character and I put this cosplay together. That's basically
So
what she
cool.
does, so it doesn't necessarily have to make sense in their mind. It just has to sound cool, so
Yeah. When I was like, look at him, he was like, no, he just wants candy.
yeah, that was my wife's idea. She was just like, we need something fun and kind of innocent that he's doing, because the whole, just so everybody knows what basically goes on in Malia's world is that she finds that magical D20 at the Comic-Con, which will be a mystery that'll be answered way later, and she goes to a world where all her favorite tabletop games come to life, and in this first world is inspired by D&D. And the whole point is that when she's in that world, she's being guided by that mysterious figure called the Game Master, and she has to follow the rules of whatever game world she's in. So this one, was pretty easy because it has magic, and she's able to figure out how to stop the troll pretty quickly. But like on issue 1, which is the one the artist is working on now, we purposely took her to a world where there is no fighting, and so she has to figure out a different way to stop him, because his goal is still the same. Doesn't matter what world he goes to. And there's a whole other, like, it's funny because at first it was kind of like a gag, and then I was like, no, I think I actually have a pretty legit backstory of why he wants candy. so that will come that'll come later down the road too, and it is tied into board games too. So
it just makes me laugh because here he is on the dragon, just like, rah!
Yeah. Oh, she did such a great job. I could not believe when she first sent me the pencils of this. I was like, wow, it's like she's drawn this her entire life.
Yeah.
She's got
It's
such a
like
great
straight.
style.
That's the coolest feeling, I think, is when you get pages and it's like directly out of your brain. It's like, this is exactly how I pictured this story unfolding on paper, and so cool. Just so I don't spoil anything, hold on, people. I wanted to show a different part because I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to spoil it for you. I'm sorry. No, you have to go get it from the website. There's multiple stories in here. I thought this was super cool right here for kids, where you go through the characters.
Oh,
So
yeah.
not only are you showing the character, pictorially, but you give them, like, she's 9 years old, what she likes, how the world works. Here's the Game Master. Troll is the antagonist of our story. His main goal is simple. His only desire is to gather as much candy from each world within the realm as possible. So you're breaking it down I love the fact that you go through all the characters here.
Mhm.
And then there was another thing that I really liked. Oh, by the way, look, guys, in this Zero, you also get the how to hunt a hero, which
Yeah,
is super cool.
I was gonna say real quick about the characters. That's actually the previous artist. That's his art. He was the one
Yeah.
that designed or helped me design all those. And so there is a version of that what you were just showing, but in here, but where Carla does
Carla
the
redid it.
same thing. Yeah.
Nice.
So I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but
Well, I made you. I gave you the in biggin. So
let's see here.
yeah,
So you
very
see,
nice.
so
Yeah.
we redid it, and that sketch at the top of the logo is actually Sarah's actual sketch because she sketched it out, and I scanned it and put it in there, and
Mhm.
just found the classic comic template to put around them. So it's
Yeah.
the same text of what you were just reading. It's just with her
Her
art now.
updated
Yeah,
art,
and so
which
this
is nice.
and yeah, kids usually like that, and it's always fun to me when the kid, because this one obviously is shorter. This one was about 12. I mean, the story was only 8, but with those extra pages it's like 12. And most kids will be at the Comic-Con, they'll buy it and they'll be like, that's it, when's the next one, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that's the best feeling.
Yep.
So
I wanted to
like,
show this off too. This was super cool to put into the book too. Now, for me, I make comics. My kids are super excited about comics because they see me doing it. And a lot of times they try to emulate. So they both have this blank comic book that I got them off of Amazon where they can make their own comics. But when you break it down, like here's the concepts, like this is what the script looks like, and just kind of giving some bios about how things work. I think that's super cool, and it's inspiring to kids so that they know they can kind of get a glimpse into the creation process and know that they too can do this. So it's that's, I think, really key when you're giving comic books to kids, is to also inspire them to make comics. What drove you to do this? It's really cool.
That was my friend Roy who wanted to do something like that, just to kind of
morning,
show, kind of like how he did it. And since that was the smaller comic, I think he only literally had the one page to do it on. So that's how he kind of put it all together like that. But yeah, he just wanted to do something fun to kind of show, because we've actually done presentations since then at a couple of kid-centered events, like at the local library. One of the high schools had a Comic-Con, and we did a how to make a comic slideshow. And so we showed some of this. We showed some of his time-lapse drawing that he does, so they can see some of his inspirations.
Cool.
But the previous, I don't have it with me, but there's a previous version of Malia, when it was still the old artist, that did have the script in it, and parents at the Comic-Con loved that. I think that we actually sold out of that one, and I plan to do a version of that one with this one, probably for the Kickstarter. It'll probably be like Malia Zero Special Edition or something, and it'll have the page. It'll have her original inks on one side and then the script on the other, so they can see all that. Because I'm totally with you on that, where we have to have something for kids to be inspired, because they're always saying, what are you going to do? Kids aren't reading comics anymore, and blah blah blah. I mean, if we don't at least try to make something that they're going to pick up, then they won't ever carry it forward. That I was always happy whenever anybody who was young would come into the store and was looking for comics. I'm like, yes. I'm like, thank you. And like some people, especially like in teenagers or early 20s, when they're super passionate about it, because by that point they understand the value. I can find certain key issues, and they really start getting into it. And that's when I would get excited. I'm like, yes, you're 20 years younger than me, but there's my wife running in the background. She actually works from home, so she's trying to hurry up and eat lunch before she runs back upstairs.
Cameo. It was a cameo.
Yeah.
Unscripted cameo.
but yeah, it's no, I mean, that was just the main thing. I mean, it's cool, especially and that's one of the reasons I like going to the Comic-Cons, because I know some people are like, well, it's hard to make money at them, and so on and so forth. And me and amongst my friends, we kind of have that discussion of like, well, yes, but kind of like you said earlier, like that's why you have the Kickstarter. I can make the money there, and maybe put some, that's what I do. I try to put some aside because there's certain Comic Cons that I just feel like we have that one here in town, Hill Country. I feel like
Mhm.
we have to go to that one. Like we're based here. Like
Right.
as long as I have a new issue to show, at least one, all I need is at least one new issue, and I can justify being there and be like, hey, we've got something new. And then of course there's still always going to be people discovering you. So it's
Right.
always going to be new to them. So
Absolutely. And I mean, like I said, it's like the people that go to cons are not necessarily the people that are shopping on Kickstarter all the time, or not the people that are going to be on your social media. So you really need to do all of the things. But I think it's a healthy balance if you rotate through, because if you just do Kickstarters, oh my God, that is so draining. And if you
Mhm.
just do cons, oh my God, that is so draining. You know what I mean? Or if you're just on so if you break it up and you do like, okay, this week I'm posting on socials, this week I'm running a special on my website, I'll run my Kickstarter, and then after that go to some cons, I feel like that's a much healthier balance. I don't know. That's just my personal opinion, but everybody, knows their strengths and weaknesses and kind of what their forte is. But if you haven't tried it, then I think, you're missing out maybe on touching a new audience.
Yeah, like
So,
we just did Bell County Comic Con up there in Belton.
oh,
I don't know if you've
yeah.
ever been to that one. That was our
No, I
first
need
one
to
being
go to
there.
that one. My artist Gilbert was there. Charter Comics was there. There was
Oh
a
yeah,
ton
I
of
did see
people that were
them.
there. And
Yeah.
I just didn't. I'm terrible at writing down when I need to apply for these things, because I
Oh
remember
yeah.
when they are, but by the time I remember when the con is going to be, I have missed the enrollment.
Oh, it was crazy. I had to be for this one. I had to be there the morning of online, ready to submit. And
God.
even after the fact, they were like, yeah, there was like 600 something submissions, and then I don't know how
Wow.
many vendors. So it's crazy. But it was a really good con. But I mean, there was a lot of people that bought stuff, but there was only one person I remember specifically. We were like, what are you looking for? And he was like, oh, I like to buy indie comics. I'm like, oh my God, I need 100 more of you.
You're like, hi, we're
Like
best friends.
yeah, like you said the magic word, and he did buy a lot of stuff. But it's like
Great.
there's not a lot of people who go to cons with that goal. A lot
Right.
more people, it's like, oh, what's this? And then we were actually just talking about this after this past con. We're like, maybe we should have something at our booth that says indie comics or support indie comics, because I don't think the average person really thinks that way. Like it's just a comic book. Like
Yeah.
whether you're Marvel, you're DC, or you're here in town, it's just a
It's
comic
all
book.
the
Like
same. Well, they
they
don't
don't.
realize.
Yeah,
Yeah. A lot of people don't, I don't think.
yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting.
yeah. So I
I
think because whenever we would say, "Oh, we're local," oh, really? And you made this?
Yes.
Like all of a sudden it's like a different thing to them.
Yes.
It's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
So
I always feel like if you introduce yourself, hi, I'm so and so, I'm a local writer, I'm a local author, their interest is different than it's just like,
mhm,
hey, I'm selling this book. They're like,
mhm.
that's great. Joe, I wanted to ask you, have you done not all age appropriate comics as well? Have you done like adult geared comics, mature comic, not necessarily mature. I don't know. I don't want to be taken out of context here,
Yeah.
but have you done stuff that I know this, like most of your focus is all ages, but have you done not for all ages too? I'm just curious.
Not anything that got published. There was
Okay.
a project we worked on, but I don't know if it's going to come to fruition. But yeah,
I just want to know what you think is the difference, because a lot of times I have friends that do all ages comics like George Medina and Sam Vera. And I
oh, I
feel
met
like,
Sam at BellCon.
yeah, I feel like sometimes it's harder to sell an all ages book than it is for an adult book. I don't know. What's your opinion on that?
I mean, it just depends because, like, obviously, I've seen this type of discussion about Kickstarter all the time because so
Hmm.
many mature and
Hmm.
SFW books do very well, and I get it. Obviously, there's an audience for that, but for us, I guess it's just because for us, kind of like that path we talked about, right? It's like we were always family friendly and family centric, so it'd be kind of odd for us to all of a sudden be like, oh yeah, child's play is now not safe for work.
Right, right.
Everybody who's been following us for years be like, what? you know
Yeah. Excuse me. What?
so yeah, so for us it's a little different. I mean, it's like with anything else, people just make whatever you want, but hopefully whatever the purpose is behind it. I mean, obviously I'm not going to be naive and be like some people don't just throw up something and be like, this is for money only. you know, I get it. But for us, it feels good. And there's been lots of times that we'll see parents at cons, and when I pitch that intro of, you know, hey, we make comics for kids, they're all ages, everything we make is safe for kids. We even have teen ones that are, you know, marked differently because they're for a little bit older crowd. And I literally had one mom tell me, oh, thank God, so that way I know, you know. And there was one mom at a library event that the son was looking at actually Child's Play 0, and I have it marked as all ages / teen because there's both kinds in there. And she kept going, and he was probably 10 or younger, you know, and she's like, why don't you get Malia? You know? And he's like, Mom, but I want that one. And she's like, no, you know, not yet. So for us, yes, I guess overall, because that's why I don't go to Kickstarter with big goals. It's really just for printing, and whatever else we make beyond that is gravy, you know, because we know what our audience is. We know it's going to be different. That's why all the events we do are more important to us, because we want to be the face of that, especially here in this town. This town is very family friendly. Like anything that's family oriented in this town does exceptional. I mean, I think that's why our shop did really well too, because we catered to families and did family events and whatnot. So even though, yes, it could be harder if that's what you want to do. And, you know,
I think I misspoke. I want to say, I agree with you. I think that running a Kickstarter campaign, I feel like that crowd is geared more towards the adult, the edgy, the dark, you know what I mean? The romance, that kind of thing. But in person, I think that when you go to cons and you go to events, like we were talked about the library experience that I had, and it was like, that's where I think you guys have an advantage, because that's where the kids want to go. They want to dress up as Pikachu and go to the con, right? And then when they come to my table and they're like, I like zombies, and I'm like, this one's not for you. You know what I mean? I'm like, but my buddy Joe's over there. Go check out his you see what I mean? So in person, I think you have the advantage. But on the Kickstarter, I really think, I don't know. That's just my experience. Again, I could be totally wrong. But I feel like that market seems to gear itself towards the not suitable for work cover, etc.
Yeah, but that's why early on, like I spent a long time, you know, trying to learn as much as I could from a lot of different creators. I mean, you know, I paid attention to you and to, you know, just a whole host of other creators of what y'all were doing. Everybody had something to teach me, whether you were outright teaching it or just simply showing what you were doing, you know. And I had, you know, almost 3 years of that. So I tried to take a lot of the lessons, and one of the big lessons I took was that Kickstarter is just another venue. It's not the end all be all.
Yes.
And I have seen creators treat it like the end all be all. And I understand if you don't have any funds at all, like you literally have zero to start with, and you're trying to do the traditional Kickstarter route of, here's my idea, will y'all support it? Oh, you supported it? Okay, now let's make it. Like I understand that traditional route. But for me, because of like you said, the challenges of being an all ages book and all that, it was like, well, maybe we're going to have to come to Kickstarter with the book already ready, you know, instead of asking for money. We're really just asking for printing and whatnot. So for us, it made more sense to not start at zero and put, you know, some of our own money into it. And, you know, of course we've started to make some of that back, but I also think long game, like, you know, I know how many issues of Malia #0 I have to sell to truly pay for what I paid for it. And it'll happen in the long run, but there has to be a continuing thing, right? There has to be the next issue, and then hopefully eventually a collection, and that's its own thing. So it's like, it's just everybody's tolerance. And, you know, of course, money is always going to be an issue no matter what, you know, but like I said, knowing how to budget and all that has really helped us out. So.
Yeah, I feel you. I think, you know, people that have run a business, or been, you know, in financial position of, you know what I mean? Banking and finances and accounting. I think that kind of gives us a little bit of an edge when it comes to budgeting and marketing and planning accordingly. But, you know, if you can't do that, find someone that can help you with that. I use a spreadsheet. I use an Excel spreadsheet. There's plenty of Excel spreadsheets out there on the web that you can look for that will help you budget a Kickstarter. Make sure that you're taking into account that your shipping is not included in the money you can spend, because then you'll lose on your. And also make sure that you calculate in those Kickstarter fees and the credit card fees, because those get eaten up on the front side. So before you even get your money, Kickstarter gets their cut. You know what I mean? So you gotta calculate that in, and the cost of your merch when you're looking at how much you're actually bringing home. Shipping. Oh my gosh, Brian, you touched. So I just ran a Kickstarter that ended in July, the beginning of July. Since we ended our Kickstarter to now, printing has gone up and shipping has gone up. What the F?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, even when you think you're budgeting correctly, all the prices go up, and now it's like,
Yeah, Comics Wellspring raised their prices in the middle of our Kickstarter. They was looking at that because that really threw us off. And I mean, we still made a profit, but it wasn't as much. Thankfully, that accounted for all that.
And that's what people need to understand, is that this Kickstarter campaign that we're running, all that bonus money helps us start the next one. It's not like we're going out to dinner, some fancy restaurant, buying steak. You know, I'm not eating bonbons, putting in buying a yacht and putting a pool in my house. That is like, it's paying for the pages.
Going to McDonald's, we're getting that $5 meal, and
yeah, that's me.
Splitting the nuggets. You get one, I get one.
Here, and then you send some to your artist. Like, here's your chicken nugget.
I'm literally sending you a nugget.
That's it. That's your chicken nugget. Speaking of chicken nuggets, give me a second. I'm gonna play the chicken nuggets.
Say, are you sponsored by McDonald's? Because I'd be afraid.
I'm not, but Ellie demands chicken nuggets. Chicken nuggets. Ellie demands that when we bring up the word chicken nuggets, she gets airtime. So
no, but you said something very poignant a while ago. You said, find somebody to help you. We can't do all that stuff.
Right.
My friend who had me help him do this, he told me point blank, he's like, I need your help, because he's like, I'm not out there on social media. You know, he'll talk, he'll do interviews and whatnot, but I mean, he's an amazing artist. He's a great art director. That's what he does on his day job. He actually works for Gearbox, so like, he knows how to manage a product and make it, you know, get done and look good. And so he did all that, and then he was like, I just need your help with like promoting it, and, you know, of course, learning how to run a Kickstarter, which of course, you know, he actually ended up learning some stuff that I didn't even learn the first time. So so we help each other in that. And so you have to find people who are willing to do that. I've seen some really great projects on Kickstarter either not fund that just because I was like, well, I haven't seen you post in any groups or anything like that, or even so they funded, but I'm like, I'll try to post about it because I'm like, this is a great project. Like, people need to look at this one, and it's not getting a lot of money, and it has, and I'm removing all the other things we talked about earlier. Like, it has to do with it being not safe for work or not. It's just simply a solid project, like one of those you would look at and you're like, yeah, that's good. You would, at least if you saw it in the comic shop, you'd like pick it up and flip through it, you know. And there's just so many like that just don't get a chance because they don't have somebody behind it just driving that, you know, that marketing
to help with the marketing is one of the biggest hats that we have to wear as creators. And another cameo. Hi. And I feel like creators, especially when we're new, it's guesswork. It's like, where do I put this? How do I get, because like you said, there's a lot of times where there's a project that's really great, but nobody knows it exists.
It's the tree in the forest that fell.
So that's, I think, one of the challenges we have. But I wanted to show everybody, you are in pre-launch for Malia Mayhem #1. Of course, this is the second issue. We had Malia 0. So this is, even though it says #1, this is the second issue in this adventure. So I'm going to drop the link in here so people can follow. And
they can also type in www.maliamayhem.com and it'll take them to the pre-launch page. So
there you go.
I usually try to do that. I usually try to buy a specialized website.
Just be careful with those. I found out. Oh, did we both post it? No, there, it's fine. the vanity links, the more you post them on Facebook
Oh,
gives
yeah.
you spam. So you can only post those like once, maybe twice a day, and that's it. They were like, you're
Oh, yeah.
spamming the group and you're blocked from posting for 7 days. And you're like, F my life, because I'm in the middle of a Kickstarter and I can't post. So
Yeah. No, you're right.
yeah.
For that purpose, I do use the actual.
Yeah.
As we found, remember, you were the one that was like,
Oh,
"It's not
God.
posting the pictures anymore." I'm like, "I
I
know, that's horrible."
know. I was like, what the heck? Like, you post the link and it's just like, it's the link. And I'm like, this is not exciting. This is not eye catching. Like, way to
Mhm.
go. Way to go, social media. But that's one of the other challenges is, of course, always battling the algorithm, always battling the changes to search engines and just the different ways that social media will try to suppress creators, which is difficult. Hey, Mr.
Somebody's
Bracey.
asking you about Path of the Pale
Eh.
Rider.
Actually, that costs $5. Every time you ask what is Path of the Pale Rider, I will send you an invoice for $5. I'll also send you a free PDF along with your $5 donation to what is Path of the Pale Rider question. Okay. Mr. Bracey, you can ask me that anytime. So what's the plan for this campaign? Do you have an idea when it's going to launch, just so whether people can have an idea? Or
Well, that's the thing, and this will be a nice lesson in what to do when life hits you unexpectedly, because
no.
it was supposed to be done by the summer, but unfortunately, our artist, her mother passed away, so
I'm
so
sorry to
she
hear.
is she's dealing with that, and we basically told her, take your time.
Yeah.
We're not gonna it's funny because I feel like she's dealt with people who are kind of like that, because when she worked on Zero, she got sick, and I was like, it's okay, just take time to get better. And she's like, really? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yes, really. I'm like, you're a person, go get better. Like, are you used to people like telling you no?
I think they are. I mean, because I've worked with artists, and I'm telling you, I'm gonna be rich, Mr. Oh, when people asking me what is Path of the Pale Rider. All right. But same thing. Like I brought on my artist Gilbert, and same thing. Like, he got married and had like life stuff happen, and I was just like, take your time, and he was like, what?
Yeah.
So I feel bad, the artists, that's something they probably experience quite often. If you and I being like, take all the time you need to be a human being first, is a shock to them. That we need, as creators, as writers, as project managers, we need to do better. You know what I mean? If that's the response.
Yeah. And I mean, I told her, I said, I already know it's going to look amazing. I mean, you saw the pages in Zero. So I was like, we'll wait. Like, and that's the beauty for us personally doing it part-time on the side, is there's not really a hurry. It's like, okay, I mean, there has been some friends that are like, I feel like I've been waiting for #1 forever. I'm like, I know, but life has happened, and
but don't you want it? I'll tell you, that's the best way to hype up a project. When everybody wants to be like, it's coming soon. When's it coming? I don't know.
Right? But yeah, that's just one of those things. We're just going to keep promoting. I mean, I'd actually, funny enough, I had stopped promoting it in the summer just because we had some other things going on.
Yeah.
And it was like in the 130s when I stopped, and look, it's at 146, and I did nothing.
That's an incredible amount of followers. By the way.
So
that's great.
You. I mean, I'm out there all the time promoting it, and I'll tell people I'll follow for follow, only because, it's just an algorithm we're trying to beat. It's just reaching that, and it's one of those things. I've never gotten a confirmation, and I don't know if you get the 100 if it's supposed to unlock some sort of algorithm. But I'm kind of the opinion of, I'd rather do it and and not worry about it than just be like, and everybody's going to be different. Some people are like, I launched with 10 people and I made $10,000. I'm like, okay, great. So it's whatever.
I've seen that as well. I've seen people not create like their pre-launch pages up 2 days before their campaign. Tom Hutchinson. And then he knocks it out of the park, and I'm just like, oh my god, and then there's everybody's audience is different. My audience, they hate signing up for things. I usually launch and I have about 70 followers, and then I end up with like close to 150 backers. So it's just, I don't know. I'm on social media so much though that I'm telling people when we're launching, so they don't care to hit the notify, because they know I'll tell them when we're launching. And then there's people like yourself and like Corissa Grant that people have to follow. They have to do it because that's what's expected. I don't know. It's different for everybody. But I think there is something to be said about the optics. When people see a project that has 146 followers, they're more likely to be like, oh, what am I missing out on? There's that
Yeah,
FOMO.
the fear of missing out. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, and as far as when people that can expect it, I mean, we just keep following us on social media. We'll talk about
Yeah.
it. I was actually trying to get another the How to Hunt a Hero Kickstarter. I was trying to get that into pre-launch, but Kickstarter considers this live.
Isn't
And
that dumb?
yeah, and they're like, we're not going to let you have both. And I was like, well, this happened. I explained to them the whole thing, what happened with her mother. So I'm waiting to see if I get a response for that, because if they do approve that pre-launch, that we'll just move ahead with that one while
Yeah.
we're still working on this one. But if they don't, then I'll have to look at some other options. I mean, that's the other thing too. We are not married to Kickstarter in our releases. So like,
Mhm.
if like How to Hunt a Hero #1, it just needs to be lettered and it's already ready. So we could
Yeah.
potentially have it ready for the fall just on the website, even if I can't get the Kickstarter pre-approved. But
Well, there's other platforms as well. I don't Fund Your Comic does really
Mhm.
well. I'm not a real big fan of Indiegogo. I tried it
Mhm.
and I didn't have much success there. But again, I wasn't pushing it as hard as I pushed it was like a second chance campaign, so I wasn't working as hard. So
Mhm.
again, it just depends. I bet you it's, work in and work out. So I didn't put a lot of work in. I didn't get a lot out of it.
Yeah.
But there's other platforms if you wanted to run it that way, if Kickstarter's gonna. But I have found that Kickstarter, a lot of times when you explain the situation, they're more likely to approve, because that's happened to me too, where I'm like, hey, I'm fulfilling this one. I've ordered my books. I'm just waiting for them to arrive. I'm fulfilling this. I got to turn around real quick, and I want to pre-launch this for 30 days. So I will be fulfilled before this one launches, and then they approve it. So I think there are people that understand, but I think a lot of times that first approval goes through like a AI robot where it's just like, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Super
And one
unhelpful.
thing we're going to do with this, it kind of goes to something you said earlier when you were talking about the cost of things going up. Well, that's kind of what happened with Zero, because it was like, well, it was cheaper to do this 12-page book through Comics Wellspring last year, but now they've gotten more expensive. And I've actually started looking at using, I started using Kablam printing.
Yeah.
And they've been really good. So for now, that's who I've switched to, just because they've been so much faster. And like, because I've needed these for cons and stuff. But to do the idea for that one that I told you earlier, basically the special edition of this was for the Kickstarter, because I was like, well, if I can create something new, and maybe, like you said, it has a little bit more to it. It's not just this, it's also going to be her pencils with the script and some of those designs. So it's something new. So it's twofold, right? If anybody already has this issue and they're interested in that, then they'll buy it again, but they'll buy that version. Or on the Kickstarter, people who have never seen or never got this one, they'll get something new and has a little bit more meat to it, I guess you could say. So of course you're going to charge a little bit more because it took more to print those extra pages. So so you just have to be creative, when the prices do change. Like, well, what are you going to do? Are you just going to take the old book and just be like, nope, sorry, it's a couple of dollars more, and people will be like, really? Like, it used to be this,
Yeah, but I think, people understand, especially if you just put a blurb on the Kickstarter, like, printing prices have gone up, my friends. It's just the unfortunate state of the economy where it's at. Everything has gone up. In the last 6 months, it's gone up. Last 4 months, 2 months. Like, my thing just 1 month. 1 month. I ended in July, and here we are. It's August. And everything went up. So I blame Doc Blalock. I think it's his fault. Whatever you did, sir, can you undo it, please? I would really like if you could undo all the price hikes on everything. I blame you.
It was interesting for us too, because I also have to consider that audience, because like Malia right now, that one we did have to go up. It was a $4 book last year, but now it's a $5 book. But it's still within that range to where parents are like, yeah, I'll spend $5 on my kid.
Yeah.
It's like, and I understand why a lot of creators just automatically jump to it's a $10 book. I completely understand why they do that.
That's
But,
my pricing. Well,
yeah.
I do $10, but I also will like if you start buying multiple things, I start
Mhm.
breaking down the price. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you get 2 or 3 books, $5 off. If you get all 4, it's $10 off.
Yeah.
But the trade paperback I think was a big step because that people can get all 4. It's a
Mhm.
higher price for one item, but it's a better value for everything because it's all 4 plus bonus material for 25. So I can move more of those, basically make more money, but I don't know. It's just it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I have all these books now that I have to sell. It's floppy.
Yeah. Oh no, did you?
So
Well, yeah, because Corissa Grant shared with me that the company she used overseas for her hardcover, which I loved at that thing. It came
yeah,
in, it like smelled like a comic book.
gorgeous.
I'm like, yeah. I was just like, I was like, I've got to use these whenever we get to that point, because it is going to be cheaper overall, and that would
Yeah,
be a nice goal if the Kickstarter did do well enough to be like,
pay
hey,
for
now
it.
we can actually just do an overseas, because I always allow like 3 months delivery for my Kickstarter just for in case something happens, but that's
Yes.
more than enough time for it to come from overseas if we go that route.
Yeah. You got to
So,
order 500 of them though.
oh yeah, I know. No, I know, but
She sent me a picture this week because she's working on her next hardcover.
She's
and
always working on her next
I
something.
know she is. She's a go. She just doesn't stop.
Mhm.
But it's on a pallet. Like it was a pallet of books, and I was like, "That is a crap ton of books." And she was like, "I know." I'm like,
Was
"But
it
I love it."
Was it
Like,
the basic? Did she just get the basic 500? Because I want
I
to see what
think
500 looks like.
ask her. She has
Yeah,
a picture of all the books on a pallet, and I was just like, "Oh my god."
yeah, because that was one of the things we were talking about. Like, we were talking comics, but we were like, what does 500 comics look like?
There's a
'Cause-
lot. Is a
yeah.
lot, but you see, it's like where do you put them, right?
Mhm.
Do you have room to store them all? We don't have a basement here, in Texas.
Yeah, we don't either. Yeah,
Oh,
Sarah's from Pennsylvania, and all her family have basements, and I'm like,
yeah.
God, this would be so helpful.
Yeah. Well, yes and no. It depends on where you're from because a lot of times it can be very moist
Oh, that's true.
in
Yeah.
the basement. So it's like, again, do you want to put it in a place where the climate control isn't as safe
Mhm.
for books? Because, like, again, then our other option is the garage. And I'm like, there's no way I would put my books in the garage.
Mm.
It's 117 in there.
Yes. You're gonna show a flaming book. Oh, that's a great promotion, Laurie. How'd you do that? Path of the Pale Rider on fire.
Special edition crispy edges. Yeah. We
If you
seared it with
come,
love
you
in
come
the
to a
garage.
con, you get it lit. It's kind of like those restaurants, like you, you play it right there at the booth.
Flambe.
Yeah.
There you go. That's funny. Oh, we can do that. We can flambe
Yeah, that
it.
does
No, we
seem like
can't do
something
that.
you would do. Oh,
Pretty
speaking
sure,
of which, I
pretty sure
thought,
they'll kick you out if you flambe something at a con.
remember you did your video and you were wearing the Pikachu Kirigumi or whatever, and you were doing. I'm pretty sure my wife has one somewhere. It might be packed away, but the only one I could find was her Cat in the Hat one.
Yes.
And I was like, when I told you when I meet you in person that we're going to do that, I mean it. Like, we are totally going to do something to recreate that video,
Oh
even
my
if I have
God.
to. But these things are hot that we have to
They
do it like in
are.
December or February, maybe if it snows again here for like the next 10 years or whatever.
No, it's not gonna snow. In fact, Joe, I have plans to wear my suit in 2 weeks. We're gonna be doing a slice and smash.
Oh, nice.
Because that's one of the whatchamacallit, the stretch goals that we unlock. And so I'm gonna be right now the two-handed axe is winning. So I'll be dressed up as Pikachu wielding a two-handed axe, destroying a jackfruit with a bunch of sparklers lit.
That's awesome.
That'll be the plan in 2 weeks. So I'm looking forward to that. But the crazy things we
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Oh, you do some amazing stuff.
I do crazy stuff.
I love to
yeah.
open up Facebook and I'm like, what is Laurie doing
Yeah,
today?
is she baking bread? Is she smashing fruit as Pikachu, or is she lighting thing? Oh, she's binding books. That's great.
Yeah. Or I just want you to do a video, just a short video of the bread, and then all of a sudden the axe just chops. Just
You're
and then
like,
just put dinner
oh.
served.
Yeah, they were trying to talk me into doing a rotisserie chicken for this license.
Oh my god.
It's like, at least with the fruit, a lot of times with the watermelon, there's parts of it we can still eat. But I feel like if I smashed a rotisserie chicken, that the smasher slash, yeah, I feel like it would be wasteful. I don't know if we could pick up the pieces of chicken.
It depends how
Um,
precise you are. If you can do it in the sections and then
well, if
then
I
flip
had a
it.
machete, then yes, I could be pretty precise. But the people who've been voting for like the sledgehammer for maximum
Oh
distance,
yeah, no, that
and
ain't gonna
it's
work.
like in my pool, and it's like, yeah, ant city, like yeah, yeah. Hey, Geekman, Masters of the Thunder Nerds. That's one of the
Nice.
best names, by the way. Good morning. Good morning. So I had more questions about writing for you. So before
Sure.
we go off topic, more shiny things, I wanted to ask about writing all ages stories, because I don't do that. I have a hard time doing that. So how do you stay relevant for kids, and still, do you like try to put in a good message? Do you try, like, what are some of the things that you try to check off every time you write a script for Malia?
Well, the first thing I did, and it's funny because my wife kind of brought this to my attention. She goes, "You've got some pretty high language in this script," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, because like I was taught a long time ago. I remember the first time I heard this was the success of the Justice League cartoon in the '90s,
Mm,
and they were like, it was a kid show, but we weren't writing it for kids, and so like that's kind of the way I approach ours. Is that when I write it, I don't shy away from big words or things like that because I'm like, here's a story for you. The word malleable, I
mhm.
learned that from an X-Men comic. Why?
You really?
Yeah, because it was like Saber. I think Wolverine was fighting Omega Red, and it was like, oh, his tendrils are made of adamantium, but they're more malleable than adamantium. And I'm like, what is that? And back
Look it
then
up.
I had a lot of dictionary because there is no Google yet,
Right.
and I was like, that always stuck with me. I'm like, now I know what the word malleable means because of a comic book.
Yeah.
So it's not that I purposely try to sound smarter by inserting words. It's just as I'm writing, if the word naturally flows out. And it's not like Malia's 9 years old. You're like, I'm not gonna. Although I have heard some 9-year-olds talk very sophisticatedly, especially nowadays that
Yeah.
they're exposed to so many more things. So that's down to your question. I don't dumb it down. I guess that's the best way to put it. Like and then as far as like lessons and whatnot, the first one, the issue 0 was more fun, and especially since it was a shorter, it was like there's not necessarily a lesson in this one, but in issue 1, because I actually wrote issue 1 first,
That's funny.
that one was a more geared towards the idea of like when kids deal with bullying, like that's
Mm.
why issue 1 is called The Bully a Baton, because she goes to a world that's based on what is it called, the board game Catan, and
Mhm.
so there's no fighting in that one, so that's why we were like, it's a perfect setting to show what does she do. And so yeah, so that was kind of the theme of the first issue, and she kind of it's one of those, she kind of refers back to things that happen in the real world and that's happening in the game, and kind of talks about how she learned to deal with it. And so that I try to write it so it doesn't get so heavy, but it's like
Yeah.
relevant to what's happening in the story, and it's just surface level enough to where kids and parents would get it and be like, oh, that's nice. Well, I hope they're like, that's a nice lesson.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's just each of those, I think yeah, I try to start with a theme specifically for Malia, just because I always liked kids books like that when they had a theme. It's like, later in the future, I think we're going to do like a Halloween issue, and like the theme is going to be like, how do you deal with fear, and like,
Yeah.
so stuff like that. And I always try to start with the end, if I
Yes.
can, like, know how it ends.
Yep.
Because overall, Malia, the story itself, just have an ending, but it's one of those that it could fit anywhere. I kind of learned that from Jake Michael Straczynski on Babylon 5, because he had the ending in such a way that, like, the same way Malia is, the longer the story goes, the more impactful the ending will be.
Yeah.
But he almost had to end it early because the the show was going to end early, but then they extended it. So that's kind of the way it is with her. It's like I could end it in 4 issues, but it wouldn't feel as impactful, but it would still make sense the way it ends. And so each of the stories that we come up with, we try to, sometimes that's the way. I won't write it in order. Like if I already know what the last page is going to be, I'll write it. I mean, and then I'll just move it up on the Word document and just write like that. And then as things fill in, like it's probably, if I was trying to teach the way that I write, it would probably be a mess, because it's like it's literally like, to me in my mind, it's a puzzle, and I'm just putting it together so you can see what it looks like. In my mind, it's literally like it's all over the place.
I would think you're a hybrid between pantsing and plotting. Like you are plotting out main points, but like you kind of figure out how to get there, pantsing your way to it.
Yeah.
Is that how I put it?
Sure. Yeah, we'll go with that. because I know certain details, I know certain key moments that are going to happen, but then as I'm writing it, other things might unfold or other ideas might pop in, and then you have to kind of do like a movie. It's like, oh well, I don't really need that scene after all, or this is going to make it a 28-page book versus a 24, and that's going to cost more printing, so let me get rid of those pages. So that was
I know that's the hard part. And sometimes you have so much where you're like, how do I fit it into 24 pages? And still be concise. And then it's like, maybe this idea goes in the next issue, stuff like that. So it's hard.
Yeah, that's one of the things in that presentation I told you that we showed the kids, that I show that, I do it very sloppily on a handwritten piece of paper, where I'll literally do page 1, page 2, and I'll just do the whole thing on one page. And as I'm filling in the story beats, I'm like, well, this is page 24. And this is page 18, or it's probably not that chaotic, but it kind of feels that way. Like it slowly gets filled in. And so that way I know, if I put this scene in there, I'm going to get to the last page too quickly. So I probably need to cut that and then just start wrapping it up or whatever. And, but I mean, in the presentation, I have a much prettier way to show it, because it's in Google, but that's essentially how I figure it out.
Have you always written in comic book script format, page 1, panel 1, etc.? Or how do you do it now? Do you do that way?
Now, yeah. I thought you meant like how I started writing, period. I mean, because like in high school and stuff, I did like all the UIL writing events, and so I've learned how to do that. I've learned how to do novels. The comic script is funny, because up until I started realizing that I could make them, I really didn't seek out. I know that there's plenty of like issues out there for different comics where it's like, oh, well, you get the script with it or whatever, so you can study it. I know there's been some that I'm like, oh, that's cool. I kind of, glanced over it, but never was like, ooh, let me study this and see how to do it. Funny enough, it was actually one time I was trying to learn how to do animated scripts, because on the Futurama DVD, the first one, they actually had the full script. Now that one I like went through, and I'm like, how did they do this, and how did they? So when I saw how comic scripts are done, I was like, there's a lot of similarities in the way that they just pop the dialogue here and whatnot. So when I started, and then I still am learning. There's still some things that I do when I'm sure people will make fun of me for this, but whenever I have a yellow narration box, I'll literally type in the script yellow box or whatever. It's just like,
why would people make fun of you? That's exactly you're on the nose on that.
I know, but I think it has like isn't it officially called like a narration box, or I don't know.
It's a yellow box.
Yeah, exactly. But
I'm with you. It's a yellow box.
Yeah, but that's the way my mind works. It's like, what's the simplest way I can describe this so the person understands what I'm saying, but I'm probably not using the proper term for this. So So yeah, I mean, now whenever I'm writing it, yes, I do, like, I'll always do page 1, and then I basically type it like as if my artist is sitting here with me and I'm explaining it to them. That's exactly how I write it. And then I'll put little notes in parentheses if I'm like, look at this for inspiration, or I'll literally pull
images,
like a page, or I'll do the layout and say, can you do something like this many panels or whatever. And I always tell her, I'm like, if you have a different idea, please tell me. Like, don't
Mhm.
think, that I'm just rigid. It's just, I want you to kind of see where my mind is. And if you're like, okay, I see that, but what if we do this? I'll be open to that. But, I can understand how some people are like, yeah, you gave me nothing to start with, so I'm just gonna
Yeah.
go.
Well, and I think a lot of times if you don't give enough and the artist is just pulling out of the ether,
Mhm,
um, it makes a lot of edits. You know what I mean? Where you're
mhm,
like, well, this is good, but I want this, or that character doesn't look like that, or you know what I mean? And it just wastes time. So
mhm,
I feel like the more you can put into that script, the more detailed where the person drawing it can see it in their head, that's beneficial for everybody because it makes you more efficient as a team.
mhm.
So, and that's super important in comics. Gosh, we want our stuff turned around so we can get it to the printer so it takes 3 months for them to turn it around. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I think, that I'm with you where it's like sometimes I'm borderline put too much information, but I want it to be concise enough to the point where they can see what I'm trying to convey. And a lot of times they come back with great ideas. And then, like you, I love it when they're like, hey, I added this thing. And you're like, I like it.
Mhm.
And then you can have a conversation about it where they're actually actively crafting in your world. That's an amazing feeling,
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
like what's it, Fish Lee? You know Fish Lee, right?
Mm-hmm.
The artist.
Yes.
He was so fun because I was like, for his variant cover, I was like, I want something that's split, and I was like, for the How to Hunt a Hero side, something to where she's
Yeah.
kind of like got him captured, and then for this one, I don't know, just something where Malia is being chased by troll, and so he did this, and then we were on the stream, and he starts drawing a dragon. I'm like, oh my god, I didn't even think about that. He's like, well, you got a
Mm-hmm.
dragon in the story.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not gonna not draw a dragon now.
Right. He's like, "You have a you it's in the story, right?" And you're like, "Yeah." He's like, "Why are we not it's a dragon that goes on
Yeah,
the
so
cover."
that was a great
Um,
example of the artist
amazing.
being like, yeah, let me throw something in there for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what is it that is coming up for you in the future? So we have Malia Mayhem #1. You have how to hunt a hunter,
How to
hunt
Hunt
a
a Hero.
hero. Thank you.
It's
My
okay.
brain. It's almost like an automatopoeia when you say it. You know what I mean? Like it's how to
Yeah,
hunt a yeah. So, you have those things that are to be coming up this fall, correct?
hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like everybody take it with a grain of salt, but that's
Mhm.
that's how life is. It's like we
Yeah,
best made plans. But
yeah.
what else is coming for you? You have cons coming up, you have more stories coming up, you have different stories coming up. You have are you going to be doing cake decorating? Like tell us what are you doing here?
No, I mean, if we live closer, I would go probably do all this crazy stuff with you too, because yeah, I'd be
Yes.
like, Laurie, let's even though our stuff is not all ages, let's cross promote. But
Oh my god. Well, and I
uh,
mean, if anything, we can just have Big James walk through your comic. That's my
exactly.
favorite. So many people just want Big James to like
Just
walk through their
be in the
comic, and
background.
everybody's yeah, it's like, was that a
Um,
bear?
yeah, bear.
Yeah.
But you should look up an old YouTube video of somebody showing a very improper way how to fend off a bear. And my friends used to always make fun of this because it was something like, just type in "whoa bear," because it was like they were like, if you ever see a bear in the forest, just lift up your hands and go, "Whoa bear, whoa," and it's like, no, you're gonna get eaten.
Dude, there was a video just recently that got released where this idiot guy was taking video for YouTube. He was doing shorts, making content. And there was a bear, it was a brown bear, and he just hopped right out of his truck and his friend was videoing from inside the truck. He
Oh
tried
god.
to give it a sandwich
Oh god.
and he died.
Wow.
Like, don't feed the
Yeah.
bears,
Yeah.
people.
Exactly. Yeah. I was
You
gonna say,
cannot you're not
y-
going to make friends.
Yogi Bear's been telling us that for years. So,
Yeah, don't feed the bears. But like
uh,
seriously, you can't hug Kevin Davis, you cannot hug the bear. It's fuzzy wuzzy, but do not hug.
yeah.
That is a death machine. He's a meat maker,
Hmm.
as in meet your maker, and he will turn you into meat.
Exactly.
Um, not
But
good.
to answer your question, yeah. So I mean, Malia is the only one that we're still waiting on realistically, because How to Hunt a Hero #1, it's completely every page is done and colored. It just literally needs to be lettered. So like that one, yeah. Let's get the picnic basket.
Bad idea. Leave that bear alone.
But yeah, that one's gonna be released one way or the other. I'll just have to wait to see what Kickstarter says. If not, as far as events, we are going to be up in Denton on the 28th to the Denton Art Expo.
Oh, okay.
So that's a free event if you want to come out and hang out.
They got tables left?
I'm not sure. I can send you the info to find out.
28th of this month?
Of September.
Of September.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. September, yeah.
That's okay.
And
because that's out by me. I'm up by Denton.
Mm-hmm.
So then we could meet with our Pikachu suits on.
Yes. Well, let's see if I fit in my wife's Pikachu suit. I may just have to just wear the hood
on the hat,
like a cape, basically.
Confuse everyone at the con.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But we have that on the 28th.
You coming up to Cowtown? Are you going to do Cowtown in Fort Worth?
No. Isn't that a 3-day con? Or is it
I can't remember. Right? I think it's 2-day. I think it's a Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, okay. I think it was just the time when it came out. I wasn't gonna be able to do it because right now with our son and just the way our week goes, it's hard for me to do a Friday, Saturday, Sunday con. Yes. If it's a Saturday, Sunday con, I can probably do it. But
I try to do those too. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And then we only try to do a few. Again, it's like we put money away and we really have to like say which ones are we really going to do and
I'm
which
with
ones will be safe. But we're also going to do that one in San Antonio the following weekend called Casa, the Comic Art San Antonio.
Okay.
And that's another one. Both of those are 1-day cons. So I've heard good things about both of them, so I'm looking forward to them. After that, we're pretty much going to be done for the year as far as events. And we'll see where, like I said, what Kickstarter allows. As far as other things coming, I will help my friend with Teen Strike #3, which is coming out either by the end of the year or beginning next year. And then I have, hopefully, if everything works out, a new anime-ish title coming out next year. Yeah. So is that no? I can't say anything other than that. It's yeah. I can't tease it.
You can't give us the name.
Nope.
Oh,
can't give anything yet. Yeah,
okay.
Trust me.
That's okay. That's okay. No spoilers.
Yeah,
no spoilers.
Yeah, because I need to make sure that it's going to happen first. I don't want to tease it if it doesn't happen.
Well, you can. It's just in concept, everybody. So, yeah, I feel you.
So hopefully that one will happen sometime next year. Malia, like I told her, as long as her schedule permits, 1 a year we'll be happy with. So hopefully issue 2 will be out next year. There's definitely some other ideas of things to do coming down the pipe. Budgets have been like set aside, but it's like it's funny. I was telling my wife, I really just want to get Malia a #1 out there and How to Hunt a Hero #1 out there, because I feel like we'll finally be done with our base #1s, all the #1s that came out of that Child's Play Comic 0. And then I feel like we'll start to more branch out, because right now it feels like we're still trying to deliver on what we promised in Child's Play Comic 0, that everybody in that issue was going to get a 1. So yeah, but
have you thought about doing a Malia board game? Because it's tied into dice and D&D and other board games.
Yeah, my wife was working on a card game before the end of the world for her, so that still exists somewhere. It would just be a matter of like going back to it. So yeah, there's definitely going to be something eventually. It's just inevitable. So.
That's interesting, because I just think it would transfer so well, and it's almost like you can pay homage to D&D, you can pay homage to Candyland because of the troll. There's just so many things there where it's like Malia could touch in kids games, and I think it would do well.
Oh yeah, that's that premise is designed for. It's basically like, what game do we want to homage now? Every issue basically until we get to the end. So
something to think about. I don't know anything about game manufacturing. I know there's people in the community that do, like Christopher Brown, who has done a ton of tabletop games, but that seems like it would be a lot of work to me.
Yeah, no, we have friends I have one friend who does both. He does a card game and he does comics. So but he has yeah, he's done the Kickstarter for both so far, and they've done pretty well.
Oh, good.
So we definitely have some people to reach out to whenever the time comes.
Yes. Joe, are you still doing a YouTube show? Or is it
No, that was
done?
that was a previous one. I mean, I do videos on our Child's Play YouTube, but not regularly.
Oh, okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, it's typically just whenever there's something. I tried to do there's some videos on there of other creators' projects. There was a time when I used to do videos for that. I even tried to just do like 1-minute videos last year. There were Kickstarter spotlights, but it's just like even the 1-minute videos were just taking forever. And I'm like, because I want to do a good job. I want to explain in that 1 minute what the Kickstarter is, what you can get. And it's like I have to have time to read through the Kickstarter and make sure. So it was all the behind the scenes stuff that took forever.
I feel like a 60-second video is sometimes harder to do because you're trying to pack in so much information in that small amount of time that it's a challenge. Ed Davis does these 1-minute reviews of comics, and he's like, I pull out every single pause, breath, he's like gone, and it's so much editing at that point for just to try and get it to 60 seconds. So it's just like, and people don't realize like how much work really goes into those videos. It's a lot.
Yeah, because people have asked if we're going to do something similar to this, like even just like a 1-hour show once a month or something. Like that's just so hard to commit to with everything else we got going on and having a 3-year-old. It's like, basically anything we do, we're both. That's why my wife, it's hard for her to come do these, because unless it's at night after he's asleep,
right. He's 3. He's not in school yet.
Yeah.
So,
well, no, he does go to like a little, to like a little center, but that's only from 9 to 2. So I'm typically at this time, I would typically be door dashing while he's at school. That's what I do to fill the time. So
yeah, I mean, I get it, because that's my time to work on comics every day too. I take him to school. I do shows during this time. I work on my comic. I build things. I do all the merch, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is my time. And then when they get home, it just becomes that much more difficult to focus. Because, I mean, my kids are a little bit older, but with a 3-year-old, you're pretty hands-on.
Oh, yeah. He wants your constant attention. So I don't even attempt anything.
Yeah. You're like, I'm trying to write. You don't get it. There is no writing when you've got a 3-year-old around. It does not work.
Yep.
So when it comes to, I don't want to say all ages stuff too, what else do someone like myself, like if I were to write something all ages, what would be like your tips for me? How would I get started doing that? Give us some tips.
Did you say earlier like that you've tried it and you just
not necessarily? I just have never, like, my ideas are just so dark sometimes, and I don't know if it's just a thing. Like, I live in horror realm. I grew up reading Goosebumps and Dean Koontz and Stephen King. That's just where my mind goes. But I feel like, for example, I was writing for Big Dog Inc. I did something for Tom Hutchinson, and like the panel one, I had my character saying like, oh shit, and he was like, we don't swear in our comics, and I was like, okay. I was like, gotta reel it in. But like, what's your tip for people who are interested in writing an all ages comic? Like, how do you start with that?
I mean, for me it's a little bit different, because I've always followed like cartoons and whatnot. Like, I just never stopped. I mean, I always tell people I'm a child of the 80s, a teenager of the 90s, an adult of the 21st century, and I put in parentheses, God help me. It's like
I'm with you.
So I had all that exposure to different types, and then I try to see, like, I will back other all ages books, and especially if I see they're pretty successful, I want to see, okay, well, what is it? What made it successful?
Yeah.
And yeah, it is kind of like you said, like if you're trying too hard, I guess, to try to match, like good luck trying to keep up with the slang and stuff. I feel like if you're really trying to, I feel like it's harder maybe when you're trying to gear towards teenagers. So the teen books are pretty much just written like adult books. There's just like you said, there's really no swearing or anything like that. The all ages, I I don't concentrate on dumbing it down, I guess you could say. It's like kids are smarter than I think we give them credit for.
Yeah.
And even if they don't understand something, they'll either work through it or they'll kind of glaze over it, or maybe they will ask, an adult, like, what does this mean? So I would say if you're going to try it, just don't like try to overthink it. I mean, obviously there's some things like you said, like you're going to have to take out the swearing, you're going to have to do stuff like that. And then like if your theme starts getting too dark, then you just have to question, like, is this truly in all ages, or am I pushing it into the teen realm? Because teen, I always try to think of it kind of like the movie ratings, right? It's like there's almost no more G rated anything.
There isn't.
Yeah.
There isn't.
So it's like most of the stuff is PG, and then if you're going to go into PG-13, and then R is basically what pretty much is the majority on Kickstarter, right?
Yeah.
But for us, we kind of exist in that kind of G to PG first, and then some of our books, if we need to go into like the PG-13, it's more for the content. Like How to Hunt a Hero, for example, takes place with characters in college, so it's like, it's not like I'm going to do a scene where they're like flat out drunk, but if they're like in issue 1, they do go to a bar at the end because that's where one of the characters works, but that just makes sense for that world. Like if you're a person in college, that would be a totally thing that you could do, is go work at a bar, so it's stuff like that. It's like, what's the context of it? Like in Malia, probably never going to have anybody die,
right?
Because that's a lot to deal with. In the teen titles, there will be the allowance of people to die, so you kind of have to like set your own ground rules. Like I printed out, the only thing I could think of to show Sarah so we could kind of like talk about it was the video game ones. Like I went online and I looked for the video game ratings, and I'm like, okay, this is the way they have them broken down, because they're actually subdivided a lot more than I realized.
Really?
Yeah. So we were just going through and we were like, okay, so they consider this as technically the all ages, and then it's kind of like in the middle where they allow a lot of stuff, and then once you go full on gore and violence, they do the mature rating. But
that's interesting to me because movies, like I said, it's like PG, PG-13, and R. But when we have so much streaming, there are different ratings for streaming and video games too, because I think people are doing that more often. So like Netflix, there's Y7.
Yes.
Right? Because my kids are always like, can I watch this? And I'm like, what's it rated? They're like, Y7. I'm like, okay. And if it's PG-13, I need to know. But if it's Y7, I feel comfortable. But that's a new rating for us. We never had that. So that's interesting. That would make sense to look up those ratings and be like, okay, do we fall in, which category do we fall in? Do you ever put the ratings on the front of the comic? I'm just curious.
We haven't yet. They're on the tags, like where it says what they are about and how much they cost. It does say it on there, but I think we had already talked about we're going to start going forward putting it on the book just to save space and whatnot, and just so parents, like if I get stuck talking to somebody, they can just pick up the book themselves while we're at a con and be like, okay,
Y7.
So that's what I would just say is this, if you're gonna do it, number one, don't dumb it down, just write it, and then you have to decide like how much you're gonna push it, basically, because all ages is like, if I took this to a school, would they let me, would they let me present it, or would they be like, maybe we can show that to our like 6th graders and up, but not the elementary kids,
Yeah.
So that's kind of where my mind is. I always have that abstract parent in my, I mean, I am a parent, but I'm thinking of the one at the Comic-Con, especially when I have experiences like the one I told you, the mom was like, that one says it's both and you're under 10. So
you
no.
need this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I get that all the time where people are like, how old you, and my kid loves this. And I was like, well, how old are they? They're like 10. And I was like, I would have to say no. I'm like, it's really up to you. I'm like, but here's some of the triggers that are in this book. And I'm like, to me, it seems like 10 is a little too young, but again, it's really up to you. But I don't have any of that stuff on my book. And that was one of the things I had talked about on Facebook at one time is how much do you put on the cover? Like, do you put mature rating? Do you put what the trigger warnings are? stuff like that. And ultimately I decided to not put anything because, again, it's listed as a horror genre book. So I figured if you understood that it's horror, that you're going to get horror inside.
Yeah.
Without spoiling anything, because if I say like trigger warning self-harm, then it's going to give, you know what I mean? Like when you get to that part of the book, it gives away some key moments that happen in the story. So
trigger warnings are just hard. Like it's almost like, you have to kind of just let the rating, let them know if it's mature. There's a strong possibility that something in here is going to be disturbing,
right.
And because everybody's experience is different, I mean, I don't say this as a joke. I know it's going to sound like a joke, but what if you legit had somebody who got attacked by a bear? Like, if they see the bear on the cover, I would hope that if they're that traumatized, they wouldn't buy it, but it's kind of like, you don't have to put that trigger warning on it just because it could have happened to somebody out there, so it's like,
and I always warn people, I warn horse people. Like people that I know that own horses and train horses and ride horses frequently, when they get my series, I'm like, this book is going to be rough for you. And they're like, why? And I'm like, it's going to be harder for you than it is for most. I'm like, okay. I'm like, don't come for me. Because I warned you. You know what I mean? Because that happens. So and they're like, God damn it, Laurie. So
and it's hard because, I mean, heck, the stuff we grew up with, I mean, you always see the memes of like, why am I so messed up? And it shows like the never ending story, it shows Labyrinth, it shows like all those dark fantasies it's called a dark fantasy for a reason.
Right. That never ending story. When that horse was in the swamp, we all lost it. We still lose it.
Yeah.
On our text.
Yeah.
Like, that's,
but that movies are meant to draw some sort of emotion from you, and sometimes that emotion can be a strong negative,
Right. Right. But I think that's part of the draw to our medium, is like we feel feelings, but we know it's not real. It's an escape from the feeling of being stressed out at work, the feeling of, having to pay my credit card, being stressed out about kids stuff. It's like when I'm reading the story, I'm putting myself in that person's shoes, and I might be stressed for this character, but ultimately I could put the book down. And sometimes it puts things in perspective about your life too. Like, at least I didn't get eaten by an undead bear today.
And one other thing I just thought of is, how sometimes when you read a review about a kid's movie and they're like, oh, this is a great kid's movie, but parents will actually enjoy it too because of this, and it's not always the innuendo. I know some of the movies do have that, and it's like, but sometimes it's because there's themes in there that the parents are going to understand, and they're like, oh, that's really good, but the kids are just like, oh, that was funny or whatever.
Right.
And that's another thing to consider when you're writing this. Like, it goes back to the don't write it down to them.
Yeah.
Just write it in such a way to where you would talk to them, and they're going to get it. And then hopefully that's the other thing. That's why we say we make, all ages for us truly means all ages. Like I want an adult to be able to pick this up and be like, yeah, that was pretty good. Not like, oh, this is so boring. This is like sitting through one of those kids movies. It's just dumb.
Cocomelon.
Yeah.
Cocomelon is not all ages. It's mind numbing as an adult.
Yes.
But I feel like that is the goal, is to have everybody enjoy it. So the thing that I thought about when you said that was the very first Inside Out movie, right? Because the kids are seeing it from that kid's perspective. We're seeing it from like the funny thing that happens in the parents' minds. You know what I mean? That to me was all ages. So it's like, we think it's funny and the kids have no idea what we're laughing at in the dad's brain. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. My son watched that and he enjoyed it, but I forgot the brilliance of that lesson at the end. There's a little bit of sadness in every happy memory, and it's like, he's not going to get that now, but hopefully one day when he watches the movie and life has happened to him and he's like, oh wow, like I never realized that about this movie. Like,
but talk about, that's another movie that messed us up when Bing Bong went down and we were all like, my childhood feels, you know what I mean? Like,
you should ask that writer, did you grow up with Artax? Did you? Because you just created a new Artax.
It was Artax 2.0.
Yeah, even not to get, I know we're almost out of time, not to get too far off topic, but kind of the same vein of how you write. The other day he rewatched Toy Story 3 and I rewatched it with him. And
Or
I
Dollar
have
Tree.
my favorites of 1 and 2, and I
Yeah.
always forget how good that one is. Like
Yeah.
if they truly had ended it there, the way that one ends, I'm like, oh my god! Like I know they're gonna be okay because I've already seen this movie before, but the way that it's written, like that's good writing.
Yes.
The way they tie everything back, and the way that Andy turns over the toys to what's her name, Bonnie.
Yeah.
I was like, that's so brilliant. And it's that like, again, back to your question of how do you write all ages, look towards stuff like that.
Yes.
Like look how well that was done, and the kids are like, oh, she gets to keep all the toys, but the parents are like, oh my god, like like that's so poignant, so relevant. That what do you do with your toys when you grow up? Do you just throw them away, or do you pass them to the next generation?
Right.
So lessons like that are what inspire me to write lessons in our book. It's like, I want to be talking about this when you're a kid and still be talking about it when you're an adult.
Right. That
So,
lofty goal of creating a story that touches us as children and then touches us again when we revisit it as an adult. And I feel like we're seeing that a lot right now. I've complained a lot about movies this year. There's a lot of remakes, sequels, prequels. We're revisiting all these things, and I think a lot of that has to do with the writer's strike that we encountered. But I feel like we're revisiting like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, we're revisiting Ghostbusters, we're revisiting all these things that we enjoyed in the past, and it has a lot of meaning for people to go see it again as an adult. So, I mean, obviously, I would love to do that with my story. Well, maybe not this story, maybe your story. Let's talk about your story, because I think it has the potential of doing that, reading it as a kid and then as an adult, reading it to your children, and maybe seeing it in a different light. That's powerful, that potential that your story has. So, hashtag life goals, right?
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, my sir, it's about that time. Tell everybody where they can follow you on social media. I'm going to throw this back up here. Please go follow this campaign. You can follow Joe on social media. He'll tell you where. So you can follow along for the journey for both Malia and How to Hunt a Hero. Those are both great stories that are becoming soon.
Oh, here, let me send it to you in Facebook. We actually have a link tree, so that'll probably be easiest.
Yeah.
So there, I just sent it in your Facebook.
Got it. I'll drop this in there real quick. That's that. I love Linktree. Linktree, genius. Seriously.
Yeah, I always tell people just pick your favorite one, because then everybody has opinions about all the different.
Yeah, everybody's on different social media, but these are the best because they give you everything. And a lot of times, you can add, you can update. It's like, here's the link to the Kickstarter for Malia. Here's the link for the Kickstarter to Hunt a Hero. Here's our website. Here's all my socials. This is great. So click on this, and then you can follow where you like. And Joe is doing amazing things. I always appreciate you, sir, on social media, because Joe is a big sharer. He will always comment and like and share other people's projects, which takes his time but costs nothing. And people, you can do this too. It is huge to cross market. That's what the madness does. We cross promote people's projects to different audiences, because again, if you want to grow, people need to know you exist. Right? So again, thank you so much for coming on the show. I look forward to seeing your projects take off and bloom. When they go live, you let us know. We'll start dropping links into the madness and talking about it. And remember, everybody, tonight we are launching John Dexter's Dime Store Detective.
Yeah, I like John Dexter. I just got his Space Cruising. I think that's the last one he did. Yeah.
So again, 7 p.m. We're going to be doing the live stream. Shortly after this will be live, and you can come hang out with us, do all that wonderful stuff. Go shopping, back a project, support indie. So important to support indie. Joe and I are on the same page on that. High five to everybody who does. So, right? Gotta do it. Thanks everybody for watching. Any last words, Joe, before I end the show?
Nope. Yeah, just follow us. There's lots of good stuff coming.
And my last words are always the same. Kiss your babies. Be excellent to each other. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody. I got to find the video I'm supposed to click on. Here we go.
Put a smile on your brow. Put a little madness in your life. If life's made you unashamed and comics are your estate, put a little madness in your life. Go give your mind a cleanse. Tune in with pops and friends. Just turn on your Roku box and then put a little madness in your life. Put a little madness in your life. Yeah, yeah. Put a little madness in your life.
Comic Books for Kids provides comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. It's a place where we can all work together to make sure every child has a comic book. 100% of all proceeds go towards the kids. It's about making a difference, and while they're in the hospital, allowing them to fly like a superhero, battle dragons, or rescue teddy bears. We are in every state in the country and now support over 160 hospitals. Every month,